She thought the worst was over. But when Gino said, "I already went to immigration," the air in the room froze. That one sentence hit harder than any breakup ever could. You could almost see Jasmine's soul leave her body. Her hands started trembling, her face went pale, and the reality hit her all at once. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was about survival. Jasmine's voice cracked. "You did what?" she whispered, almost not believing her own ears. Gino didn't flinch. He repeated it, calm, slow, and terrifyingly certain. "I already went to immigration. You'll hear from them soon." For a moment, everything went silent. You could hear her breathing, fast and uneven, like someone trying to wake up from a nightmare. But the nightmare was real, and it had Gino's name written all over it. Welcome to TLC Reality Talk. I'm Indira, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. Because this story, this exact moment, is one of the wildest, most emotionally charged scenes ever aired on 90 Day Fiancé. And I want to know from you in the comments, is this revenge or justice? Back to the scene. Jasmine was sitting there, clutching her phone like it might save her. She was pregnant, hormonal, already drowning in drama with her new partner, Matt. The last thing she needed was Gino threatening to destroy her life. Yet here he was, reading from a letter he had written just to remind her of everything she owed him. Financially, emotionally, legally. He wasn't yelling. He didn't need to. His calmness was scarier than rage. He told her she had used him for a green card, that she had never loved him, that she owed him $70,000, $40,000 from Panama, $10,000 from the wedding, $5,000 for divorce, and the rest, he said, for everything you took from me. Jasmine's tears turned into panic. She kept saying, "You can't do this to me, Gino. You know I'm pregnant." But Gino's voice didn't shake. "You should have thought about that before you betrayed me." The irony was brutal. For years, Jasmine had been the fire. Loud, passionate, emotional. But now, Gino had turned cold, calculating, and prepared. And that balance of power, the one she always used to control, flipped instantly. And right when you think Jasmine couldn't break any further, Gino drops the line that flips her world upside down. Because when he said, "I went to immigration," he wasn't bluffing. His eyes said everything. He had already made his move. Jasmine's hands covered her face as she sobbed. You could hear her saying, "You're doing this because I'm having a baby, right? You want to ruin me." But Gino's silence was louder than any response. He didn't confirm. He didn't deny. He just let the tension hang. Now here's what makes this moment so haunting. It wasn't a fight anymore. It was a power shift. Every relationship has that invisible line where hurt turns into vengeance. And watching Gino cross it in front of millions of viewers felt both shocking and strangely inevitable. Because if you followed their story, you know this wasn't an overnight collapse. This was years in the making. Let's rewind for a second. For 3 years, Gino sent Jasmine money while she lived in Panama. He believed he was building a future. She believed she was building a lifestyle. Both thought they were getting love, but what they were really trading was control. Every dollar became emotional currency. Every text became proof of loyalty, until loyalty itself started to feel like debt. So when Gino later said, "You owe me $70,000, it wasn't just about money, it was about validation. He wanted her to pay for what she took from him emotionally. And Jasmine, already crushed under guilt, couldn't tell where love ended and punishment began. In that phone call, she begged him to stop. "You're threatening me with immigration while I'm pregnant, Gino. What kind of man does that?" And his answer, or rather his lack of one, said everything. He didn't need to justify it. To him, this wasn't cruelty. It was justice, but was it? Or was this Gino's way of reclaiming power after feeling humiliated on TV, after being called names, after watching Jasmine move on? Was this about immigration or ego? Jasmine kept repeating that she never used him, that she wanted to start over. But Gino had come prepared. He had receipts, calculations, and a tone that felt rehearsed. It was almost as if he had been waiting for this exact moment, the one where he could finally say, "Now you'll understand how it feels." And the part that hit hardest, when Jasmine said, "I'm sick, I'm pregnant, and you don't care." And Gino replied, "You should have thought about that before lying to me." Cold, precise, final. For years, viewers watched Jasmine dominate every argument, every scene, every emotion. But now, the roles had flipped. Gino wasn't the awkward, quiet man anymore. He was the one holding the weapon. Not a physical one, but a legal one. This wasn't just about love lost. This was about identity. For Jasmine, her green card meant security, safety, a home for her unborn child. For Gino, that same card became proof that she had fooled him. And here's where it gets dark. The way he said, "You'll hear from immigration soon," didn't sound angry. It sounded satisfied, like he had already accepted the consequences of destroying her, as long as it meant she couldn't hurt him anymore. But even through her panic, you could sense something else in Jasmine. Defiance. Between sobs, she said, "Go ahead. Do whatever you want. I'll survive." It was the kind of line that sounds strong in theory, but in her voice it was trembling with fear. You could feel how broken she was. Pregnant, alone, humiliated, and now legally threatened. And yet she still tried to hold on to dignity. That's what makes this so human. Because in moments like these, people don't fight for victory. They fight for self-worth. As the call ended, Jasmine threw her phone across the couch and collapsed. You could see it in her eyes. The disbelief, the guilt, the exhaustion. She didn't know whether to scream, cry, or pray. And Gino? He hung up quietly. No yelling, no satisfaction, no visible regret. Just silence. The kind that says, "It's done." That's the moment when the story stopped being reality TV and started being something darker. A real-life emotional war, where both sides had already lost something they couldn't ever get back. Because behind the green card accusations, the dollar figures, and the viral headlines, what's really being destroyed here is trust. And once that's gone, everything else collapses with it. Was Gino justified? Maybe he felt used. Maybe he wanted accountability. But threatening someone's future out of pain, that crosses a line. And Jasmine, who built her identity around control and confidence, suddenly looked small, human, scared. The viewers saw it. The internet saw it. And somewhere deep down, even Gino must have felt it. That strange emptiness after revenge. Because revenge gives power for a moment, but it never gives peace. And that's where this story begins. A love story that started with promises and ended with paperwork. A man who thought money could buy love. A woman who thought beauty could buy freedom. And both discovering that when love turns into a transaction, nobody walks away whole. Because when the person who once called you the love of their life suddenly becomes your biggest threat, you realize this was never about love. It was about control. Their story started like a travel romance cliché. A lonely American engineer meeting a magnetic Latina beauty online. DMs turned into FaceTime calls, and FaceTime turned into plane tickets. Within months, Gino was sending flowers, clothes, and small gifts. Jasmine called him mi amor. He called her his forever, but forever comes with conditions. At first, it was little things. Rent money when her teaching hours were cut, a few hundred for makeup classes, a laptop so she could start a blog. Gino told himself it was love. Jasmine told herself it was appreciation. Both told themselves it wasn't about money. And both were wrong. Soon the numbers grew. 400 became 4,000. Then 10, then 20. Every transfer made him feel indispensable. Every thank you voice note made her feel indebted. They weren't building a future. They were building a balance sheet of emotions. When the TLC cameras finally entered their lives, the roles were already rehearsed. Jasmine, the fiery perfectionist. Gino, the awkward provider trying to prove he was enough. Audiences loved their chaos, but few realized how much of it was real. In Panama, Jasmine lived like someone constantly auditioning for the life she'd been promised. Hair appointments, cosmetic touch-ups, outfits curated for the camera. Gino funded it all, proudly telling friends he was investing in their future. Yet every wire transfer came with a new level of control. Send me pictures of your receipts. Don't wear that on social media. Remember who pays the bills. Still, she smiled for the phone. Because love mixed with dependency becomes a habit you can't break. Even when it hurts, they fought like they loved. Loudly, publicly, and always near a mirror. He accused her of using him. She accused him of insecurity. Then they'd make up, post a couple's selfie, and start the cycle again. What neither of them saw was how reality TV was feeding the same addiction, attention. Each argument went viral. Each tear became content. And somewhere in between sponsorship deals and confessionals, their private life stopped being theirs. And that's the hidden tragedy of this story. When your relationship becomes a storyline, you stop fixing problems and start performing them. Still, Gino believed marriage would fix everything. He bought the ring, filed the K-1 visa, and promised Jasmine a new life in Michigan. She promised loyalty and cosmetic restraint. At least, that's what he thought. Then came the infamous sugar daddy reveal. During a heated argument, Jasmine admitted she still had an ex who occasionally helped her financially. For Gino, that sentence shattered everything. He'd spent over $40,000 believing he was her only support, only to learn she had another investor in the background. That's when control turned into obsession. He started keeping spreadsheets. He documented every expense: plane tickets, apartment deposits, dental work. Jasmine laughed it off at first, but when she saw the total, $68,742, the laughter died. She told him, "You can't put a price on love." He replied, "You already did. After that, nothing was the same." Gino stopped saying "I love you" without following it with "after everything I've done." Jasmine started avoiding calls, using excuses like bad Wi-Fi or power cuts. But deep down, she knew the dynamic had changed. She wasn't a partner anymore. She was an asset under audit. Then came the visa paperwork, the interviews, the medical exams, the endless bureaucracy that turns passion into paperwork. Gino handled every form like a man clinging to proof that the relationship was real. Jasmine felt the opposite, like the forms were shackles. When she finally landed in the U.S., winter greeted her first. Cold air, small apartment, no family, and a fiancé who now wanted gratitude more than affection. She tried to smile through it. She filmed cute couple clips. She promised viewers that everything is fine, but inside, both were keeping score. One night after another argument about money, Jasmine snapped, "You think you own me because you paid my bills. You don't." Gino, staring at the spreadsheet on his laptop, said quietly, "Maybe I should send this to immigration. Let them decide what you owe me." She froze, not realizing she was hearing the foreshadowing of her future nightmare. That night she packed a bag but didn't leave. Instead, she wrote him a letter too, a softer one, apologizing for the fights, promising to be better, asking him to delete the numbers. For a while it worked. They reconciled, even planned a wedding. But trust, once quantified, never recovers. By the time she met Matt, the man who would later complicate everything, Gino was already emotionally checked out. He was still funding her life, still calling daily, but more out of duty than desire. Jasmine sensed it, which made her cling harder, love louder, and spend faster. Their love had turned into a contest. Who could hurt, owe, or guilt the other more? She flaunted independence. He flaunted receipts. She posted filtered smiles. He saved text messages as evidence. Every episode, every argument, every apology was part of the same script, a script neither of them realized they were writing toward tragedy. In private, Gino started talking about getting his money back. He told friends she was using him. They told him to move on, but pride is a slow poison. Instead of healing, he started planning, calculating ways to prove she'd scammed him, and that's how the immigration idea was born. Long before the audience ever heard about it, in his mind it wasn't revenge, it was accountability. If she'd used the system to get a visa, then the system would take her down. But in Jasmine's mind, she'd done what she had to do. She saw herself not as a con artist, but as a survivor, someone clawing her way out of poverty, chasing love and opportunity in a world stacked against her. That's why, when Gino finally said the words in Act 1, "I already went to immigration," it wasn't a sudden explosion. It was the final spark of a fuse that had been burning for years. What looked like spontaneous cruelty was actually premeditated heartbreak, because behind every outrageous TLC fight is a quieter truth, a chain of choices, insecurities, and compromises that turn good intentions into bad endings. Jasmine once said in a confessional, "He doesn't understand. When you grow up with nothing, love and survival look the same." Gino once said, "I just wanted someone who needed me." And together, they built a love that was both until needing became owing, and owing became war. As the camera faded on their romantic montage, the beach walks, the whispered vows, you could already sense it. That under the laughter was accounting. Under the kisses was calculation. And when money starts keeping score, love stops keeping faith. When Jasmine first mentioned she might be pregnant, it wasn't during a joyful moment. It was in the middle of panic. Her voice cracked. Her hands shook. The test wasn't even confirmed yet, but the fear in her eyes said enough. Not long ago, she'd been fighting for Gino's trust. Now, she was fighting to figure out whose baby she might be carrying. That's when Matt's name entered the story. A man who appeared when Jasmine's world was falling apart. A man who listened when Gino had stopped. A man who, depending on who you ask, was either her emotional rescue or her biggest mistake. They'd met during one of her lowest points, separated from Gino, feeling unwanted, and stranded in a country that didn't yet feel like home. Matt was kind. He said she deserved peace. He helped her with errands, comforted her through panic attacks, told her she didn't need to beg for love. For a woman who'd spent years being monitored, funded, and doubted that attention felt like oxygen, she let him in. Slowly, then completely. By the time cameras caught up to her storyline, the lines were blurred. Viewers saw two men, one woman, and a pregnancy test that threatened to destroy what was left of her reputation. And yet, the fear wasn't just about judgment, it was about exposure. Because Jasmine knew that once this became public, it wouldn't just be a headline, it would be a weapon. Gino would see it as confirmation that she'd used him. Immigration would see it as evidence of fraud. And the audience would see it as drama, not pain. Behind the scenes, Jasmine was spiraling. She called her sister, sobbing. She said she felt like a product being refunded. Matt tried to calm her, but every message from Gino, even silence, made her heart race. Then came the pregnancy test result. Negative. Relief mixed with devastation. She wasn't pregnant, but the damage was done. Rumors had already spread. Online forums, reaction channels, even casual fans. Everyone was dissecting her life like a puzzle of guilt. She posted a story saying, "I'm not who they think I am." But the internet doesn't care about truth. It cares about spectacle. And when your heartbreak becomes public entertainment, healing starts to look like performance too. While Jasmine tried to rebuild her peace with Matt, Gino was moving differently. Quietly, carefully, he started pulling documents. Messages, receipts, bank statements, a paper trail that painted him as a victim. He wasn't shouting on social media. He was preparing. That silence scared her more than shouting ever could. Matt noticed it too. He told her to relax, that Gino was probably bluffing. But Jasmine knew him too well. Gino didn't bluff. He documented. And every time she smiled online, she imagined him taking screenshots, saving proof, building a case. The pregnancy scare became a symbol of everything between them. Love, fear, control, and reputation. She wanted to move on, but every time she tried, Gino found a way to remind her of what she owed, emotionally or financially. And then came the 70,000 conversation. Jasmine had mentioned it offhand, but Gino corrected her quickly. He said the total was higher, that it was proof she never loved him. She said it was proof he never understood her. The argument spiraled, like it always did, until someone said something unforgivable. This time, it was Gino's phrase, "You used me for a visa." Those 7 words would echo for months. Jasmine's face changed instantly, from fury to fear, because it wasn't just an insult anymore. It was a threat. He followed it with a sentence that made her blood run cold. "I already went to immigration." Everything after that became a blur. She screamed. He stayed calm. Cameras caught every moment. But what they didn't catch was what came after. The silence. The endless waiting to see if it was true. Was he bluffing? Did he really file something? Would she be deported? No one knew. Not even Jasmine. Matt told her to get a lawyer. TLC told her to keep filming. And Jasmine told herself she was fine. But she wasn't. She started having panic attacks. She'd wake up at 3 a.m. checking her email, waiting for an official notice. Every phone call felt like doom. Every letter made her hands shake. She still filmed for the show because she had to, not because she wanted to. In her confessionals, she tried to smile, but her voice kept trembling. Even fans noticed. Comment sections filled with speculation. Is she okay? Was that scene real? Is TLC protecting her? The truth is, Jasmine wasn't okay. She was scared, humiliated, and unsure whether her entire life was about to collapse on camera. And this is the part where viewers stop being entertained and start realizing this isn't just TV. This is someone's actual life falling apart. What makes the situation more haunting is how both sides feel justified. Gino feels he was manipulated, drained, and embarrassed. He believes justice means exposure. Jasmine feels she was emotionally trapped, publicly shamed, and punished for surviving. She believes justice means empathy. Both see themselves as victims. Both have receipts. Both have reasons to hate each other and to still care. Because no matter how toxic it became, Gino and Jasmine's connection was never fake. It was real, raw, and messy. Too messy to sustain, too real to forget. Even Matt, for all his calm and compassion, seemed to realize he wasn't just dating a woman, he was inheriting a war. A war that didn't start with him and might not end with him. Somewhere between visa forms and therapy sessions, Jasmine tried to reclaim her identity. She started doing interviews, trying to control her narrative. But every headline still had his name next to hers. Every search result tied her story to his. That's when she said the words that changed everything again. "I'm not scared of him anymore." It sounded strong, empowered, but her eyes said otherwise. Because she knew, and maybe he did too, that once love turns into evidence, there's no clean way out. When Gino finally spoke publicly, it wasn't on camera. It was online. A post, a few screenshots, and a caption that said enough without saying anything direct. Fans noticed instantly. The internet did what it always does. It exploded. People screenshotted, reshared, analyzed. Reddit threads popped up overnight. Some called him brave for exposing a scam. Others called him cruel for ruining a woman's life. In less than 24 hours, Jasmine's name was trending again. But this time, the comments weren't about her hair, her makeup, or her fiery attitude. They were about immigration. Words like fraud, deportation, and fake marriage started circling her name like vultures. She saw it happen in real time. Thousands of strangers debating whether she deserved to stay in the country, or even deserve love at all. That's when she realized the real punishment wasn't legal. It was social. Public humiliation had replaced any court ruling. Jasmine called Gino, hoping to stop the chaos. He didn't answer. Instead, he posted another cryptic story, a photo of an immigration form and a single emoji. Everyone knew what it meant. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. TLC producers asked if she'd comment. Tabloid blogs emailed her for statements. Even friends back in Panama messaged her, asking if she was being deported. She stayed silent for 2 days. Then, during filming, she broke. She sat on the couch, mascara streaking down her face, whispering to the camera, "He wants to destroy me. He knows what this means." And she was right, because once something like that spreads online, even if it isn't fully true, it changes everything. People treat you differently. You start questioning your own worth. Gino, meanwhile, told people privately that he wasn't trying to ruin her. He was just telling the truth. He claimed he'd spent nearly 70 grand and she never cared. He said she used him to get here, then dropped him once she found stability. To him, it was simple: accountability. To Jasmine, it was betrayal at a level she couldn't even process. And right when you think her humiliation couldn't go any deeper, the internet decides to make it entertainment. Reaction channels uploaded videos with titles like "Jasmine's visa scam exposed" or "Gino finally gets his revenge." Comments flooded in. Some viewers laughed. Others defended her. Most were cruel. Even TLC's editing started leaning into the scandal. The next episode framed Gino as the man fighting for justice, and Jasmine as the woman with secrets. She watched that episode alone, shaking her head, whispering, "They don't care about the truth." But truth was complicated. Yes, she'd taken money. Yes, she'd fought dirty at times. But in her eyes, she'd also loved him, sacrificed for him, endured humiliation for him. That love didn't erase her mistakes, but it made her human. Something the internet seemed to forget. Matt tried to comfort her, telling her to focus on her own peace, but she wasn't built for silence. She'd spent years living out loud, performing every emotion for millions. Now, she decided to use that same platform to fight back. She went live on Instagram. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady. She said she'd been loyal, that she'd never committed fraud, and that what Gino was doing was emotional revenge. She said she didn't need his money. She needed her dignity. Tens of thousands watched. Some believed her, some didn't. But for the first time in months, Jasmine felt like she was controlling her story, even if only for a few minutes. Gino saw it too. He didn't respond directly, but the silence after her live was louder than any post. Behind the scenes, TLC producers debated how to handle it. The immigration story was good for ratings, but risky legally. They urged her to stay quiet. She refused. She knew what silence meant: guilt. And she'd rather go down screaming than fade away quietly. Still, the pressure kept building. Every day brought a new wave of gossip, screenshots, and speculations. The emotional strain began to show. Her usually perfect appearance on camera looked different. The fire in her eyes was dimming. Then came the leaked email. Someone online posted a supposed letter addressed to immigration services, allegedly from Gino, summarizing his accusations. Whether it was real or fake, no one could prove. But perception became reality. And reality became nightmare. She spent that night on the floor of her apartment, crying. Matt sat beside her, helpless. In confessionals, she admitted, "I know people hate me, but they don't understand what it's like to be trapped between survival and shame." That single line resonated with thousands of fans who'd once mocked her. Because for the first time, she wasn't the villain or the victim. She was both. And that's the moment the story shifts, when the woman everyone judged finally becomes the one everyone relates to. Days turned into weeks. The investigation rumors never went away, but no official notice came. Still, the fear lingered. Every time her phone rang from an unknown number, she froze. Meanwhile, Gino's public image began to shift too. Some fans who once defended him started questioning his motives. Was this really about justice or humiliation? Did he want closure, or did he want to see her suffer? Even his calm tone in interviews started sounding cold. What began as righteous anger started looking like obsession. TLC milked the tension. The storyline became one of the show's most watched arcs. But off-screen, real people were breaking. Gino's friends said he'd stopped sleeping well. Jasmine's friends said she'd stopped eating. Both were drowning in the fallout of a love that refused to die quietly. By the time the season finale aired, Jasmine looked like a ghost of the woman who'd once screamed, laughed, and loved with no filter. Now, she spoke softly, like someone afraid her words might be used against her. She said one thing that night that stayed with viewers long after the credits rolled. "I gave him everything I had. Maybe not perfectly, but honestly." For a moment, the comment section softened. People started rethinking their opinions. Some apologized. Others stayed cynical. But the narrative was no longer one-sided, and somewhere, even Gino must have felt it. That hollow victory of being right, but alone. Because when revenge finally lands, it doesn't heal. It corrodes.